Alright guys, welcome back to another white noise book review, if that's a thing now. Yeah. I guess it's a thing now. We've been doing the Harry Potter books because you guys really requested it. Obviously, there is a chance we could continue doing like book reviews or anything like that. Right now this is kind of extra, but depending on how these do, definitely a chance where we could do some book reviews. I mean, Ninetailedbrush and I were just talking about like reading classics or different things like that. Anyway, all that being said, Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter 2. We both read the book, or at least I listened to the Stephen Fry version of the book, which is really all I have time for right now. What was your overall take on the book, kind of before we get into details? Like summary, non-spoiler, so to speak, review.
I think the differences were a lot less prominent or like
significant.
Significant.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Like there were definitely some differences that we're gonna get into, but like I feel like compared to the first book, I like this a lot less comparably to like the movie when I'm putting them side by side.
Yeah, which is always gonna be kind of my comparison.
Yeah, so they're like,
yeah, it felt a little bit more of like just kind of an adventure.
Yeah.
Even just comparing the books, I think so. I liked it a little bit less. I'm not saying it's terrible. I did like it a little bit less than the first book. Mm. I feel like obviously the lack of novelty added to that, but also I think it was just a little bit less character based. I think it was a little bit more of like an adventure, which I get because they've introduced the characters, but like for me, I'm all about characters, so the more you can give me about characters, the more I liked. I did really like one thing that they did have that I think that actually really helped the story, but it's kind of more of a continuation of the first movie or book, is the whole thing with George and Ron and them like picking up Harry. Like I really liked that whole, I don't know, 10, 15 pages together. I really liked that dynamic actually, and I really felt that vacuum in the movie, and I think that would have been really cool, like seeing that like hanging with the Weasleys.
Yeah, well the thing is like I feel like we spent a lot more time with the Dursleys, right? And spending a lot more time with the Dursleys makes it so that you feel Ron and them and their family, like I feel like filling that hole that Harry has or something.
Yeah, and I also feel like that's such a thing. Like I went to private school, and like that family, I've seen that. Yes. So like for me, it's really funny because there is always that family. It's like, okay, all their uniforms are a little hand me down, and they got their stuff, but they pull it together, and there's a lot of them, and it's kind of like nice in their own way, and the kind of doting mother, like all of that, like to me personally was so familiar. So I thought that was a lot like I was kind of grinning the whole time through that.
Yeah, well, I just was able to see the contrast there like a lot. They made it very like clear. Like, okay. Well, obviously, when you have the Dursleys so over the top with some of their stuff, I mean, the aunt is basically swinging a frying pan at him. Right?
It's like, whoa. Dude, she's like freaking abusive for like 3 weeks or whatever.
And then you switch over and you're like, oh, now he's with this, charming like family. You can really feel that, like, oh yes, like this is what he deserves,
Yeah, and I do think, so kind of getting into more details, I do think one of the things that overall I have been kind of noticing is that the books are really effective at like being kind of a coming of age story. 2 books in, obviously there's more to it. Obviously, if we want to get real on the nose, you could be like, oh, magic is a thing for puberty or whatever. Like you could really get into it. I don't know if you necessarily need to, but either way, I really liked how they tackled that idea of this kid, like him kind of losing control, and it's not that he's trying to be disrespectful or trying to say F the system or F his parents. It's kind of like he's got this stuff going on that he doesn't really have control over, and it's kind of passionate, and I like that they're kind of exploring that, and they're even exploring his rationale, where I feel like even in this extreme kind of exaggerated circumstance, which is the Dursleys, which you could completely and pretty justifiably lose your temper at these people, even in that situation, he is kind of like trying not to and trying to kind of keep the peace at least. And he feels kind of bad about losing it.
Yeah. I like that. It is kind of like that coming of age. That's sort of like, learning about yourself and being able to understand and control, kind of, at this point, right?
Now, I think I'm getting a little confused because I think the aunt is in the third one, right?
Petunia?
Yeah, isn't it?
No.
Oh, I'm
Petunia
thinking
is
of the sister-in-law. Never mind.
Yeah, because that's her mother.
Yeah,
his
I'm
mother's
getting
sister,
confused.
right?
We're reading all these books at the same time, so I'm getting a little bit confused. I liked Dobby. I think we got a little bit more with him. It made a little more sense. Because in the book, he's kind of just spazzy, and you're like, oh, he's smacking his head up against the door.
That
or
is
the movie.
True.
Like, it was like a little bit more explained, so you're like, okay, I kind of get this, as opposed to it being like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, I feel like he was pretty much... Well, let's just say the voice was, like, so spot on. Yeah.
Dude, yes.
I was like, wait, what?
Yes, please comment whether these audiobooks came out before or after. Because if not, either the movie did a great job of nailing the audiobook or vice versa.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's Dobby. Freaking Stephen Fry. Dang, man.
Stephen Fry, man, with these voices.
I know. It's
no,
cool.
but, yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like, yeah, okay, we spent a little more time. He still felt, to me, about the same. Like, I got the same sort of feeling. So.
Yeah. I really liked Lockhart. He's hilarious. Like, obviously, he's not a nice guy character, but
he's
to
still...
me, he was so funny.
Yeah.
And it was such a perfect parody of, like, look, I love movies and actors, but he was such a perfect parody of the Hollywood influencer, like, stereotype. Like, he
into
was
that
so
side. Yeah,
perfect in nailing that. He was hilarious.
He felt a little more serious in the book.
Yeah.
Compared to the movie, right? There were a few times, like, when he was talking to Harry that I was like, oh, yeah, you know... Obviously, he is more of a comical character, but he still had that, I don't know, indulgent side of him, right?
Yeah.
That was not comical. It was like, you know, you could really see the, I don't know. I don't want to call him evil, but like the bad
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
For sure. What did you think of the whole polyjuice potion thing?
Them going in, getting all the ingredients?
That's just how they did it, yeah.
I mean, they spent more time on it, right?
I really liked that. I don't know what you...
I did too.
Because the thing that I always had trouble with, and I think it's just because of my introduction to it, is that when you're watching the movies, some of the magic, due to time or whatever, really feels like a little bit cheap, where it's like, oh, we just have this spell, and so then you're like, okay, well then, like, life is really easy if you just have spells for everything, whereas the books really lay out that it's like, yes, you have spells, but they make it feel grounded because they're like, oh, you can make a polyjuice potion, but you have to get all these crazy ingredients, and it takes like 6 months or something crazy. And so then all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like, oh, anybody can drink this potion and morph into this thing. It's like, no, it's magic, but even then there's still work, and there's a grounded element to it, and there's a limit to it, so it doesn't kind of feel like
out of nowhere
magic MacGuffin sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I definitely felt like when we spend time like gathering the ingredients and stuff, you already know the goal ahead of time. Like, okay, we need this potion, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of like reinforces it in your mind. Whereas in the movie, when something like that comes out of nowhere, you're first trying to grasp the idea of it. Like, okay, well, like what?
And then if you don't know the rules, you automatically are like, okay, well, why didn't we use this for like everything, right?
And so
like
being able to like, you know, gather the stuff and like having to go through the struggle of even gathering it, because it's like you feel that it's like not what they're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the movie it's kind of just like, okay, they kind of mention like, okay, it's kind of, well, at least from what I remember, like I don't remember them like going out and
I don't think it was as big of a deal, which I really liked. How that was a big deal. I feel like they earned that moment more.
What about, I like they spent more time. Well, first I'll mention about, I feel like Ron did a whole bunch this book compared to the movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of people complained about that because they like replaced a bunch of... Oh, wait, was it Hermione or was it the other way around?
No, I think Ron, because he definitely like stepped up in this book.
Yeah.
I 100% like remember that I like there were times where Ron would be like, oh yeah, this like the Tom Riddle thing or something, and then the even just like what was it? I don't remember what it was exactly.
Okay.
But he definitely felt like he stepped up way more. Even if it wasn't just Hermione like replacing it, it was like he probably wasn't even doing that in the movie. Right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it felt more, and then it felt like I liked that they did the thing where it's like everything that they established in the first book, not everything, but a lot of the things they established in the first book, then they make you like these things, and then narratively they challenged all those. which I really like. So it's like, okay, we got the Hagrid-Harry relationship. It's like, okay, Hagrid gets expelled.
Yeah.
Harry Dumbledore relationship. He gets kicked out as well. We got the crew relationship. Hermione's out. It's like they did that in a way that was kind of cool, where they challenged all of these ideas and these things that you had established in the first book and made it feel really connected.
Mm-hmm. I also like we kind of covered, obviously in the movie we covered it, but in the book it felt a little more expanded upon, the whole mudblood situation, right? There were definitely a few times where that popped up, like with not only Hermione but also with Filch, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, and it felt more of like, well, at least for Filch, it gave me a little more... It
was understandable, actually. I kind of understood his character better.
Yeah, like, you always understood that, like, okay, obviously he had some issues with that, but you never really, how should I say... Once you actually see it and, like, realize that he is kind of really struggling with this, and, you know, is trying to do stuff to, I don't know, be looked at as normal and stuff, it makes you feel like, you know, a bit of like pity for him, like, dang.
Yeah, or I also think it kind of expands on that dynamic in general. Like, even the Dursleys, who obviously there's nothing that's excusable about what they're doing, but even thinking about the idea that the like Muggles, their relationship to magic has to be one of kind of like jealousy.
Yeah.
And so it's hard, which is kind of now, it also makes you understand why, like, the magic world is hidden, because it's such a hard dynamic that kind of inevitably is going to go sour in a lot of cases, that it's almost safer to be like, let's just not have this thing be here. What did you think of the whole Ginny thing? I thought it was a little better than the movie.
Yeah.
Like, because we've had more time with Ginny. Now, it's hard to tell, too, because I feel like a lot of this book leaned on the mystery, and since we both knew the mystery...
That's true.
It was really hard for me to not be like, what's going to happen? Like, you were like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. So, the mystery was kind of a key element in this story, and so it was hard for me to be, like, completely into it, because I know everything that's going to happen.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like that is a big thing for, I think, the entirety of the book. Not just the mystery side, but also little things, like even going back to the whole potion thing and all that. It's like you kind of already know, and so in ways it might support it. Like the potion, you already know, like, okay, I've already have a foundation for this potion. It's not out of nowhere, you know. So in that way, it might help.
Oh, that's true too.
But then in other ways, it's like, okay, well, we already know, like, what's going to happen, and we already know what the mystery is. When
Ginny's acting all sus, I'm like, guys, Ginny's acting sus. Come on,
guys. You know, so it's tough because, like, you know, obviously we watched the movies first, so I don't know, like, how we would have reacted if we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you kind of have to just go with it.
But honestly, I think it wasn't that big of a, like, detriment to it. So
yeah, I do see them setting up some stuff which I think is very interesting, which I think definitely was not included in the movies, and I want to see how this kind of through line goes, because, you know, Voldemort was obviously revealed in this book, which was cool. It wasn't very different than the movie. I think they had a few more lines, spent a little bit more time with it.
Yeah, I feel like things are switched around.
Dumbledore said a few things which I thought was really interesting about, like, Voldemort and, you know, his father's relationship, just like a little bit. That I kind of like hinted at it, and I'm hoping they get into it more. But, like, they kind of hinted at that, and I think that there's some really cool, like, overarching themes that I want to keep in mind about love and lack thereof. And, like, you know, I know people have said that, like, you know, somehow love magic saved Harry. I mean, I want to see that kind of explained, because I think that would be really interesting then, looking at Voldemort and potentially, like, his lack of love. Maybe there being more to his villain, as opposed to in the movies it's kind of just like, he hates mudbloods.
Yeah, like, going back on that that whole theme of the love thing, like, I had something also from the last one about that, because at the end there, because I don't think we really talked much about the end
of the last book, the first book,
the whole thing of being loved greatly, right, by Harry's mom or whatever. She loved him greatly, right?
Yes.
It, like, leaves something on a person. It was like literally in the book it said something like it will leave something on a person, and it's not a scar, but it's something that affects them.
Yeah.
Kind of like in reality, like if you love someone greatly, it affects them. It really does.
Yeah,
so like in that way you can kind of mirror it as like some sort of magic that protects them. So someone full of love, you know, they have a hard time, I feel like, being pulled down by people who, you know, are filled with the sort of hatred or greed and stuff like that, right? Because it acts as like a protection.
It does, yeah.
Right? And so when you have Voldemort who knows not of any love or anything like that, any affection, it's hard for him to attack or, in the movie or in the book, kill Harry because of the fact that Harry is filled with other things.
Yeah.
It's hard to bring someone like that down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can bring down other people that have those same, like, you know, the whole misery loves company thing.
Yeah.
But people with that sort of affection that they received, you know, they're able to kind of protect themselves.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like I would like to explore that more, because in the movies it really feels like the whole love thing is a little bit just out of nowhere.
No, I definitely want to track it because I think it's something that exists in the book. And the way I've been kind of looking at it, you guys may argue with me of this, but I've also been very much, because I think this is what the book is pushing you to do, unlike the movies, very much looking at Voldemort and Harry as two sides of a coin.
Foils or something?
Yes, as opposed to, you kind of think of Voldemort as Harry's elder or stuff in the movies, but especially getting introduced to young Tom Riddle and hearing how he was a student, and then they really delved into the idea of Harry possibly having gone to Slytherin and maybe not having gone to Slytherin. That whole idea I thought was really profound, and it makes me, in this book, but I want to in the future, kind of like compare and contrast Harry and Voldemort, because I feel like they're much more similar than you would imagine, and I think it's kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of picking up on some ideas and themes of like, okay, well, like, maybe Voldemort could have been like a Harry, just like Harry could have been Slytherin and nothing would have been wrong. Like, these are kind of just, not that Voldemort isn't culpable, but it's very interesting to see characters who are incredibly similar and yet ideologically complete opposites.
So different. It is cool. Yes, I do like seeing that every time they do bring up Voldemort. You can definitely see that sort of like link, not even just like, you know, literally, but, you know, symbolically. It's like there's something there. You know?
And it's fascinating. And then also, I want to just acknowledge Dumbledore dropping. I don't know if this quote was in the movie or not. I can't remember. But he had some line at the end of the last book, which was amazing, about like not fearing the name of Voldemort, and by not saying Voldemort, you give it more power. And then in this book, he said something similarly where Harry was talking to him about maybe being Slytherin. He's like, it's not. We are the choices that we make. We're not a preset mold. Our choices, and the fact that you said you want to be Gryffindor over Slytherin, makes you different than Voldemort because you chose that. I liked that a lot.
I think I remember that in the movie because I think I liked that line a lot.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That was really cool.
So I liked that. That was a really powerful message. But yeah, I think it was a decent book. I think it leaned a little bit more on the mystery, and I think the characters were just a little bit less highlighted in this book. And so because I'd already seen the movie, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first book. Yeah. I don't think. And a lot of that may be just because we already know kind of what happens. It's so hard to tell. But it's just, you guys know we watched the movie, so I'm just judging it as from that perspective. I'm really excited for the next book.
Same.
Because I've heard everybody say when they watched the reactions, everybody was like, they botched this book. The book is so much better than the movie. And there's a lot of different stuff. Okay. I'm very curious to see. So I got just in the middle of that. But I'm really excited about that book review. So yeah. Thank you for joining us. Let us know what you guys think. Obviously, continue the discussions in the comments. That's the fun of this whole thing. We may be doing some live streams around the books, maybe halfway through or something. So let us know if that's something you guys are interested in. And then, thank you for joining us. As always, next week's book review, which is going to be the Prisoner of Azkaban, is going to be up on Patreon if you guys want to go check that out. It does kind of support us and help keep doing what we're doing. And thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you all in the next video.